Vikings fans, you are listening to the Purple People podcast. None of us are excited to be here, but we are here each and every week, and we're going to talk about the Minnesota Vikings. Well, I'm Kyle West. I'm accompanied by Adam Carl.
I'm here.
We're here. Kyle Smith is here too.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah.
It is that time of the week where we get together and we talk about Vikings football, even if we don't really want to. And I got to admit, there were times during that game that I really wondered why I was still watching till the end. We'll save more game talk till later. Right now, it's time to introduce you to episode number 224. That is a lot of episodes. This one's titled Trick or Defeat in honor of Halloween. Because Halloween's a good thing. I had fun on Halloween. I like to think of the good times.
I had a lot of fun on Halloween until the Vikings ruined it.
Hey, come on now.
It's a good show title, Adam. I don't think we've ever had Vikings football land on Halloween. Started working the show, so that was cool.
I didn't see a lot of the cool costume posts that the Vikings had in the last previous years. There were some awesome ones with Everson last year and Harrison Smith. I saw some cheerleader ones this year, but not about much of anything there.
Maybe they couldn't do it because they put it on Halloween.
I do enjoy costumes. But let's get into some quick have. Mr. Kyle West put all these together because I didn't feel like I should be bothered.
Yeah, Dorian Foley says, I still think I need a drink.
You know, it is games like that that test my sobriety, but I'll make it. I'll make it. You guys that haven't given up the drink, I would have been right there a long time ago. Halftime, I'd have been driving to the liquor store, so don't feel bad.
Eric Spink says TJ Kling's costume was the donkey. The force for that one.
I like it.
Yeah, me too.
Well, I don't like it, but I like it. All right, so the first big news is that the NFL trade deadline was today, and the secondary big news is that the Vikings didn't do anything.
That's because they would have to pay someone with circus peanuts. No trade's going to happen. No trade didn't happen. No salary cap. We have no draft picks left. Wasn't going to happen. Didn't happen. You shouldn't have been surprised.
I wouldn't have been surprised to see some draft picks go. I mean, this team does believe they can really win. But the problem is that teams are going to want these young, talented players in the Mike Zimmer defense, and Zimmer ain't going to give those up. That's just not going to happen. As far as salary cap, they would have had to have moved a guy with a bigger contract, so that makes it someone like, a Harrison Smith or an Everson Griffin, and those guys just too big of cornerstones of the team to let go. So although now the Vikings have to look forward to more of the same when it comes to their offensive line work, there is time and hope that something can work out in practices, or they can figure out some sort of scheming to help work things out, because let's be honest, right now there's no way that this team's going to make it past the better pass rushes in the NFL. Moving on anyway. We got Mike Zimmer, who was not able to talk to the media for his regular game after press conference due to having a minor medical procedure. My opinion is that it was a broken heart.
Touche.
We have more gallstones after watching that game, because I know a lot of things need to be. By the way, my dog's barking in the background, so I am going to periodically mute my microphone.
Completely understandable. That, and you are kind of coming in and out on my end, but hey, who knows what's going on. My computer's not exactly the freshest piece on the market, so who knows. But as of right now, there is no knowledge as to what was the issue with Zimmer, what procedure he had done, or anything like that. But it is presumed to be minor. He should be returning to practice if he hasn't already. So it shouldn't be a big deal at all. We have guard Alex Boone, who was fined $12,154, no change, for yelling at a referee during week 7 against the Eagles. He did issue an apology. He did say he lost his cool and that it's something that should not happen in the future. So it's good to see him own up and take responsibility for that. And let's be honest, when you got a game like football where you have adrenaline going so many different directions, testosterone pumping everywhere, it's easy to lose your cool, and it does happen in the game. But that can't be directed at a referee, and Alex Boone definitely knows that.
I really want to know how the NFL figures out, like, the exact dollar amount for this. Like, it could have been $12,154 for the fine. Like, there has to be some weird system.
It's a certain fraction of their salary. Because you can't have, a guy that makes $21 million a year get the same fine as a guy that's making $500,000 league minimum,
I mean, if you really want to not do things like this is the time for breaking this rule, and it's the same for everyone.
No, you can't do that because it won't
mean
as much to certain players. You just can't do it. We got some shifting around on the practice squad. Kyle Carter, Brian Lyon, and Joel Staub. They lineman Austin Shepard. Keep it on, I guess. We got Jared Allen's bull airtime competing on the Pro Bowl hitting series. 100% buck off rate. He's only been successfully ridden once in 28 total outs.
Adam, I think we dropped Kyle Smith.
We did, and you sound very robotic right now.
Yeah, you do too. It's like the pitch on your audio just dropped. Yeah, like way down. I don't know what exactly is going on with that. Yeah, no sound for me. Everyone's saying we're having audio problems right now.
Right,
I'm not 100% sure. The joys of
Hello?
Nothing?
I can hear someone. Yeah, I can hear you, Adam.
Am I heard now? All right. Sorry about that, guys. That's the danger of doing a live show.
Yep, that's just what I said in the chat, too. I said, hey, we go live, and sometimes these things happen.
Sounds like we'll be buying a new set of headphones here.
Let's see here. I'll just go back and just recap really quick. We have practice squad update. Again, Leonard Hart and Joel Stave were released. No more Stave time in Minnesota. We signed a defensive end in Sterling Bailey, Austin Shepard, the offensive lineman, and Cedric Thompson, the defensive back, to the team. A little bit of shuffling around. I'm excited to see Austin Shepard at least back with the team. Offensive line is playing. He could very well be called up to the active roster here very shortly. Eric in the chat said this podcast is as well as the game last night. Ain't that the truth?
Your audio is still really choppy to me, but I think we're getting the message through as to what we're trying to say. But yeah, we got some definite issues going on here with our audio presentation and maybe even the video. I don't know. But let's keep on going. We have Jared Allen's bull airtime currently competing on the pro bull riding circuit. That bull currently has a 100% buck off rate and has only been successfully ridden once out of 28 total outs. Now, I'm not a big bull riding fan. I don't know. It's just that, NASCAR, a lot of those other kind of sports that are more popular down south aren't really my kind of thing. But hey, I completely get the appeal of it. And it's awesome. Jared Allen roping the bull. It's fitting. Makes sense. Really kind of cool the way that Jared Allen's getting involved in stuff like that. The more I talk and nobody talks with me makes me think that my microphone still isn't working.
Nope, I can hear you, Adam.
All right. This show is something. Percy Harvin's getting another look. The former Vikings wide receiver, kick returner, running back, whatever he was, weight thrower, I don't know. But he's signed a $1 million deal with the Bills to return, if you remember right. Percy Harvin retired with the Bills and is now giving it another shot, so who knows?
He carved it. He came back.
He did. The Bills are a better team than a lot of people think, so who knows? Maybe if he can come in, get involved. He's had some time to get healthy, a little bit of time away from the game. You never know. You never know.
I got a message and an update from Kyle Smith, who is still alive. He said, I couldn't hear a thing on my end. He thinks it was his bad cell phone reception.
Nope, it was me.
You just don't know. Oh, well, hey.
Boy, did I not catch a word of what you said there. But I'll finish off the quick hits by talking about guard Brandon Fusco. He ended the game against the Chicago Bears as the worst right guard during Week 8 with a Pro Football Focus rating of 39.3, which is not good. The right side of the offensive line let through a lot of pressure, and that leads right into our Game Ball and Donkey Award. And I'll go first on this one because my donkey is TJ Clemmings, the right tackle. Now, seeing the Brandon Fusco grade makes me think that I missed a little bit worse performance, but it was that right side of the offensive line that just absolutely crumbled so many times, let through so many pressures. It was hard to see anything, and these are guys, especially Fusco and Clemmings, they're supposed to be road graders, making room for running backs, and they aren't paving the way for anything right now. It's really hard to watch, and I am really disappointed with the way they are working out. On the positive side, we got a game ball, and my game ball is going to Jeff Locke. His leg got a workout this game. He had some nice punts. He even had one that should have been down at the one, but the team couldn't really control it down there. It was really a good performance from him, and I am really pleased to see that the change in his technique has helped out so much. Every week so far, I've tried to get in a little bit saying, hey, he's getting better, he's having good games. And this game, he really showed that, yeah, he's got it. He's all right.
We had to punt the ball 7 times. That was how inefficient this team was. We had to punt 7 times, so he got plenty of work this week.
Sure did.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to give my ball to Carlson. My ball this week was going on the t-shirt, that's for sure. Get ball out because you have to sit through and off the Chicago game for like a week straight, and for that to right.
It's going to be an adventure, that's for sure. And I'm still having trouble understanding you. I don't know if the other people listening are, but I'm struggling to make out some of it. But it's going to be a sad week until the Vikings can pull together another win.
What else I've troubleshoot on my end. For my, I don't go with anyone on the line not named Joe Berger. I think, Joe is pretty consistent. Everyone else is just up and down, and that causes problems with the team.
I was watching plays, and Berger was pushing guys 5 yards down the field on some of these run plays, and then the other guys were getting pushed backwards. It was hard to watch. I don't know what the problem is because I've seen Fusco play at high levels. I know Clemmings can get the work done. Last year, yeah, it was his rookie year. He came in, plugged in, did an admirable job filling in. He's not a rookie anymore. He should be taking some steps. And I understood against Philly. Philly is a team with a great pass rush. They are familiar with Sam Bradford. And now it's just me. Just me, guys. This is interesting. And I don't have the chat up, so I don't even know if I'm going. But, hey, it's just the way it goes. Let's go into talking about the game. Chicago Bears beat the Minnesota Vikings 20-10. Sadly, the one touchdown by the Minnesota Vikings came in sort of a garbage time situation where Sam Bradford put together a drive that seemed very, very slow and ended with a touchdown to Cordero Patterson. No, it didn't. It was Stephon Diggs, sorry. Stephon Diggs. Diggs was targeted 13 times in the game. Caught 8 of them for 76 yards. Was a really, really interesting game, especially from a passing point of view. Not a typical game from Bradford, even though he ended up connecting on 23 out of his 37 passes. He was under duress all game, as you could tell by his QBR of 20.9. Really a struggle by the offensive standards. Running the ball, the statistics are a little bit slanted on this one because it shows the Vikings averaging 3.2 yards per carry, but that was very hit or miss, and some of that came in the later times. Ronnie Hillman had 4 carries, 15 yards. Asiata, 14 for 42. This is a game where Jerick McKinnon, the Vikings' most dynamic running back, was out of the game due to injury, and the team had to find a guy to step in and take care of business. And really, finding someone to take up that kind of a job on a short notice can be very, very difficult. I'm still going, so I think that I'm the only one here.
I don't know if I got a call or not.
There he is.
I got dropped from it a little bit ago. I don't know what's going on right now with hang up.
I just recapped the offense of the game.
Awesome. The offense sucks
because there wasn't much to talk about offensively, so it was a pretty quick recap. Defensively, we have Eric Kendricks leading the team in tackles once again. He had 9 total, 7 solo. But we got to give it up for Xavier Rhodes. He had all 3 of the Vikings' pass defenses. And when he is healthy on the field, he is a guy that can be matched up against the opposing team's wide receivers. And you can usually expect pretty good things from him. Otherwise, Linval Joseph, Harrison Smith each had 2 tackles. Everson Griffin added a sack to go with his 5 tackles. A lot of people are saying that this Vikings defense didn't play to their usual standards against the Bears. However, I don't know if that's quite the case. The Vikings do have a history of struggling against the Bears in Chicago. So it wasn't really a big shocker to see Cutler come in and pick them apart a little bit. But only giving up 20 points to Chicago on the road, after a crushing defeat with those offensive line issues, having to be on the field because of the short time the Vikings offense had the ball, especially in the first half, is really a testament to what this defense can do. On paper, this game looks closer than it was with a 10-point loss, but the game never felt like it was within reach. The Bears came out and they shocked the Vikings right away, and Minnesota was just unable to recover. And Sean Reynolds in the chat says this is the most lackluster performance on all 3 phases, and honestly, he's correct. I mean, I don't know if I've ever watched a Vikings game, under Mike Zimmer, where I had the same feeling that I had in this game, where everything felt significantly out of reach so early. It was really hard to watch, really hard to follow, and it was hard to be positive about. Even when Everson Griffin went in and got his sack, I was just sitting there watching TV, and I was like, okay, cool, good for him. You never had that feeling where there was going to be this spark or this catalyst to turn things around. And it really gives kind of a sinking feeling heading into the game against the Detroit Lions next week, especially since the Lions do have an offense where they're spreading the ball around. They're taking care of the ball better than they typically have. The Lions' defense may be a little bit more susceptible than the Bears, and it's weird to say that, especially after how bad the Bears' defense was at the beginning of the season. But the Vikings will have to take – Ziggy Ansah has been an absolute monster for the Lions. And for them to try to figure out a way to defend him, getting to Sam Bradford is going to be one heck of a mess. It's going to be really hard to watch.
Hey, I keep dropping from the call, Adam. Video, see if that helps. I don't know if you guys hear me right now. In this fitting podcast after you.
Yeah, you are definitely a Mr. Roboto today. I don't know what's going on with you, and I don't know why Mr. Smith hasn't come back. But I'll just keep trucking on here. Moving on to special teams, Cordero Patterson returned the ball twice, averaging 18 yards each try. I don't know about returning the ball for him that much anymore. I mean, unless he looks and sees that he has a somewhat clear path, now that you get the ball to 25, it kind of makes it a little bit more difficult to justify bringing it out as often as he used to last year. As much as I enjoy watching Patterson make these dynamic plays, and it didn't seem to cost as much when he'd get out to the 18 or the 21 or whatever when you got the ball at the 20. Now that it's at the 25 and the Vikings offense is struggling as bad as they are, those 5 yards seem a little more significant than they used to. And it's dumb to say that about 5 yards on the opposite side of the field, but field position has become a big part of the Minnesota Vikings game. And when he gets tackled at the 15-yard line, like what happened before, that's 10 yards. That's 10% of the field that the Vikings gave up because they went for a return instead of taking a knee in the end zone.
Only converting 2 for team position does turn into a really important factor for the team.
I'm just going to assume you're saying good stuff because I still can't really understand what you're saying. But I'll just assume that you are right on the money with your assessment. The Bears came out and they just had yards all over the Vikings. They came out and it was just an absolute mess. The 158 running yards against the Vikings. If you would have said that before, I would have just kind of shook my head, especially if you'd have said that 153 of them would come from a guy named Jordan Howard. Jordan Howard was supposed to be like an afterthought after Kadeem Carey and, oh my God, what was that other guy's name? I don't know. But he's out too anyway. And Jordan Howard has picked up, and he looked like Barry Sanders out there. He had some moments of sweetness as well. And when you can make a usually disciplined Vikings defense look that way, it's not good. Starting Javon Curse at safety was something that Mike Zimmer immediately made a change from. With Anderson Dejo out, the usually disciplined safety who has been improving over the years, when he was out and they brought in the youngster, you could definitely tell the difference. Curse missing that tackle on that big run. It was just kind of the start of bad things to come. And hopefully when this Vikings team gets healthy, when they get Sharif Floyd back in the middle, when Anderson Dejo comes back, hopefully this defense will be back to where it was at. One guy getting a lot of criticism during this game was Anthony Barr. It looked like he was moving at half speed. I had a lot of people on Twitter mentioning that. And I do like Anthony Barr a lot, but I do also understand that he probably struggled to find any motivation to do anything during this game. And sadly, football is a sport where you can't do that. You are going to be watched so closely, scrutinized from all angles. And you have groups like Pro Football Focus and other organizations that grade individual players based on their performance. So every play, you're going to have one set of eyes on you, and you're going to be scrutinized. And if you do a couple things wrong, if you take some plays off here and there or half-ass a couple, you will definitely get called out for it. Absolutely. Eric Spinks says that Cutler never got rattled and seemed half a second ahead of the pass rush. It was frustrating to watch. Yeah, actually it was, because there were times when the Vikings got the better with personnel, when they had players rushing extra, but they had to go further around the blocking, or they had to try to force their way through two blockers next to each other. And there were situations where normally they would have got to Cutler. But because of the blocking scheme, they weren't able to do that. And Cutler was able to get off some dish passes, float a couple out there to guys that were open. And I hate to give Cutler some credit, but when he is on, he can throw some really nice daggers, and he threw some balls into tight windows on the run or under pressure that a lot of quarterbacks in the National Football League just can't do. Kyle West says that he thinks that Anthony Barr was trying to reach and do too much, and that's very much possible. When you try to overextend yourself and you get frustrated because of what you're doing, it's very easy to lose focus and lose track of what you're doing. And for the defense, like I said, I don't think the defense was as bad as people say. Giving up those 20 points ain't so bad. If you're in the National Football League and your defense only gives up 20 points, your team should win. Because all you're asking your team to do is score 3 touchdowns, 2 touchdowns, 2 field goals, something like that. And it's not as if the Vikings defense gives up a lot of points on many occasions. And 20 points isn't a lot of points. If you could partner this defense with an offense that can get some points on the board, it can be a fantastic thing. But right now, the Vikings did get exposed a bit by that Philadelphia Eagles defensive pass rush. And now they're paying the price. They're going to have to figure out some ways to get some more protection schemes in there to try to keep things possible. They need more blocking out of the backfield, maybe keep an extra tight end in. Yes, you're going to miss a guy running down the field. But it's going to take away some of the creativity of the offense. It is. And I know that that's something that the offensive coordinator doesn't want to lose. But there are going to be times when you will have to make that kind of sacrifice in your offense in order to make sure that you can pull off the plays that you want to do. I think the most frustrating part of this game was when the Vikings had the ball down on the goal line and they just kept trying to pound it in at the same spot over and over and over. And I understand that used to be the Vikings' bread and butter right there. Matt Asiata is a bowling ball, but he needs help from that offensive line. And they kept running right behind Fusco, who, as Pro Football Focus noted, had the worst performance of the week at his position. And he was moving backwards on a regular basis. Jeremiah Rutherford in the chat says Bradford needs to get the ball out faster. And yes, absolutely. There were plenty of times when he got to sit back there and he got to take a little bit of a look. And something was going on where the internal clock in his mind didn't say, okay, I've got to get rid of this ball. He knows that the offensive line is struggling. And he knows that the pass rush is going to get to him. This is something that Bradford usually doesn't have a huge problem with in the past. But I don't know if he's hoping that he can get the blocking or if he thinks it's there. I don't know what it is. And we had the same problem with Teddy Bridgewater before. That internal clock just wasn't working the way that it should for a quarterback. Sean Reynolds says, I think that Bradford is applying for witness protection since his O-line can't protect him. And there's a pretty good possibility that, yeah, Bradford might take a little bit more of a beating this year, and it's going to be rough. Johnny Green mentioned the urgency of the team when they were down 2 possessions later on. He said, I don't see why he was walking to the line and talking forever to pick the play while the clock was running. And absolutely, there was absolutely no urgency in that drive whatsoever. The game was still within reach. Statistically. I mean, it never felt like the game was within reach, but statistically there was still a chance if they could come down and score quickly, they could have the ball again and try to get in position to at least tie the game. There was that drive that ended in the Diggs touchdown took way too long. And I don't want to say that it was only to make the game look a little closer, but that kind of seemed like the only goal there. I get that Bradford wants to score touchdowns and get some points on the board, but there's also the game clock and wins and the division. This was a division game on the road. These are the games that you have to win in order to be great. And after what happened in Philadelphia, everyone was kind of expecting the Vikings to bounce back, to have these new protection schemes in place, and they just weren't there. It was frustrating to watch. It absolutely was. The media question, I don't have that pulled up, so I'll skip that for now. Let's talk about the Purple People Podcast Survival League. I got in all my prizes for it. I've got them all in a box ready to go. So as soon as we have a winner, they are going to get a really awesome prize package. Right now, only 13 teams remain in the contest. 4 of those teams have 0 strikes left. 4 of them have 1 strike, and 5 have 2 strikes. So there's some dangling on the edge. We'll have to wait and see how that ends up.
At some point, you got to pick Cleveland.
I actually picked against Cleveland this week.
Ooh.
No, I didn't. No, I actually didn't. I ended up, I'll give my insider pick for these guys. I picked Kansas City to win this week.
Ooh.
I did not pick Dallas against Cleveland, although that seems like a pretty good no-brainer. I went with the little tougher one, although Kansas City's playing really good football as well. Do you have the social media question pulled up?
I don't have anything close to everything at this to work.
Well, that is pretty fantastic.
Can you hear my audio? Finally?
Yeah, you're sounding okay right now.
Sure, of course I did that just now. I'm a hell of a podcast here this week. Hey, I'm right on board with the Vikings.
And you're back roboting it up. Pretty sweet.
Because I tried to pull Facebook.
Let's go into the social media question for the week. We asked you guys, have Teddy Bridgewater and Adrian Peterson played their last snaps as Minnesota Vikings? Of course, Adrian Peterson is entering a year where if the Vikings cut him, they will have no losses to their salary cap and they will be scot-free. Teddy Bridgewater has an unknown injury, and doctors are a team doctor in the league, which I know Kyle West loves that, says that Teddy Bridgewater may never play again. So we got 2 guys who at one time were either a franchise running back or a possible face of the franchise that have a possibility of never suiting up for the Vikings again. Let's see. We have some comments here. We've got 4 answers, which is 4 more than none. John Dostal says, if Adrian comes back at the end of the year and runs for 200 yards a game, takes the team to the Super Bowl, then we suck it up and pay the man. Otherwise, he's gone. Teddy will have an uphill battle to recover and then outplay Bradford, and that's right. Bradford is, of course, on the books for another season for the Vikings. After that, the Vikings will have to make a decision, so there's no rushing Teddy back next year. If they don't have to, they can have him sit and heal up completely. From there, they'll have a unique situation where they could use him as some sort of trade bait, although it'd be hard to trade a guy coming off an injury like that. Or they could try to keep him on and see him as a backup to try to outplay Bradford. And this is all hinges on if Bradford can keep playing at a starting quarterback level. And behind this offensive line, it's hard to look good. Mm-hmm. Scott Conrad says, yes, I think so. He believes it is both. Thomas Buse says AP probably, and that's likely sad. Teddy Bridgewater possibly. We won't know until the season's end. And honestly, we probably might not know until after that. It's going to be a sit and wait and watch on him. That's how we're going to go forward with that. Stephen Osborne Jr. says no. So he believes that either Adrian, Teddy, or both will be back. And Eric Larson gave a big nope with lots of O's and a couple extra P's. We were going to have a social media question for you next week, but we decided that we'll decide on it later. Mm-hmm. We're in no rush. We'll get that all figured out some other time. We're going to keep this kind of a short show since I am doing a bulk of the talking here. And I don't feel like talking a whole lot more than this. So let's go into doing some little plugs here. Of course, if you're on YouTube and you're listening to this, and I don't know why you still would be, because this has been a cluster mess of a show. For you, those of you who tuned in, thank you. And we're sorry about the audio issues. It's been one heck of a mess. But the shows will get better. We'll have better audio. We'll have better everything. And things will be even better if you head over and give us a big follow on the YouTube page. As we've said before, if we can hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, we can do YouTube Live, which is a much smoother way of doing things than Google Hangouts. And we would greatly appreciate it if you could do so. Tell your friends to do so. Maybe pay your mom a couple of bucks to head on over and do it. I'm not saying to bribe her or anything, but I'm not saying not to. I didn't say any of that. We've also got the Viking Age. We're currently looking for a co-expert on the site. So if you're a big fan of the Vikings and you like writing and you wouldn't mind making a little bit of extra cash, there's a position there for you. We're also looking for contributors. If you don't want that kind of responsibility but still want to talk about the Minnesota Vikings, there are positions open for volunteer contributors. We're also doing that over on the over on Undead Walking. If you want to talk about the Walking Dead, which I always love talking about the Walking Dead, especially right now. I mean, I talk about two things: the Minnesota Vikings and the Walking Dead, and only one of them is making me really happy right now. So it's not really the Vikings. I mean, Negan smashing some heads is right now better than the Vikings losing these 2 games. So that's saying a lot for me. Eric Spink says, bounce back podcast next week, just like the Vikings. And I like it. I like it a lot. Kyle West says we're going to give it the old college try, and we absolutely will. I don't know what happened with Kyle Smith. We lost him. He didn't come back. But he is going to be keeping up with his music, so head on over. You guys know the site for him is Skate Cow. To go check out his music, give him a big thumbs up, recommend him to your friends, because he might have a pretty bright future. You never know. You never know. All in all, I apologize for this podcast. I know you guys didn't want to tune in just to listen to me talk. I mean, usually Kyle West is the fun one and Kyle Smith is the handsome one. I'm kind of that other guy, but hey, every once in a while you got to deal with that other guy, and that's me. I'm glad I didn't do it in costume because I was thinking about it. That would have been something. Anyway, I'd like to thank everyone for listening, and remember to stay classy, Minnesota.